Okay, so we're going to go over our principles of strength training here at Private Fitness and Private Fitness Online. Overview of what we're going to look at today: proper movement preparation, activation, mind-muscle connection, progressive overload, core control, program specificity, and also recovery. So let's get into it. The first step or the first principle that we follow is really good movement preparation. Now, I do have a video that I send out to everyone going over the actual logistics of this, getting a lot deeper into it. So maybe you've seen that, maybe you haven't. But a brief overview is we're going to start with applying pressure. So we're using foam rollers or fascial release tools to work through tight muscle tissue and fascia. We're going to then begin lengthening using bands, specific positioning, anything we can to stretch and lengthen the inhibiting muscle tissue. And then we're going to follow with creating strength. So once limiting muscle tissue is actually released, then we can focus on activating the muscles we want to strengthen. So moving on to that activation piece, again, another core principle. The first movement or two in your workout is normally going to be an activation. That's normally how we try to program things. On those lifts, we're not trying to lift super heavy or go super intense or do anything crazy. We're just trying to specifically activate the targeted muscle tissue. So this could be, and normally is, the stabilizing muscle tissue. For example, if we're doing a bench press, we're going to limit the inhibiting tissue, which might be your pecs and your lats. And then the first movement on your program is going to be something to activate the scapular stabilizers. So maybe that would be a row or something like that. Sometimes it's also for areas that you have a hard time targeting. So again, using the bench press as an example, if you did have a really tough time feeling your chest on a movement like that, we might also have a pec activation movement in there as well. So the first couple movements you're going to do are going to be activation based. Moving on, this is to create a mind-muscle connection. But the best way that you can focus on that is taking time to actually watch the videos, learn the movements, and really learn the proper form. So that way you can really feel the muscle you're trying to activate. If you spend a lot of time getting things right in the beginning, it will make progressing the movements and nailing stability and control a lot easier. Moving on to progressive overload. The progressive overload principle is a very easy and simple to follow principle with all the tools we've already given you. So if you just follow along on Trainerize and track everything, it's already going to prompt you to be overloading things and building over time. In simple terms, it's just doing more every single time we work out. We have to continually increase the workload if we want our bodies to keep adapting and getting stronger and building muscle. Now, this doesn't necessarily always mean more weight. We're not piling weight on every single time we move. This could be weight, reps, time under tension, anything that we really choose. Although weight and reps are easier to track traditionally, so that's normally where people end up. Just keep in mind that when we're going back to form here, we need to set a really good standard. We need to make sure that your form isn't getting worse as you overload, or we're really not progressively overloading anything. So making sure that we maintain a high level of movement quality allows us to know that we're actually getting stronger and we're not just cheating our movements. Moving on to core control and activation. Another really big focus of ours is going to be proper engagement and activation through the core. Not only is this going to help you keep a lot safer while you're lifting and avoid injury, it's also going to improve your overall biomechanics, and it's going to help you feel the right muscles working. The glutes are a really good example of this. On a lot of our movements where we're using glutes as our main mover, the lower back can kind of extend, and that makes it a lot harder to achieve proper glute activation. If we can just teach proper core engagement, we can remove that limitation in form, and we can get a lot more activation out of our glutes while training. And so that's a good example of where that comes into play. And so that's going to be a big focus of ours as well, is using movements like breath work and activations just to make sure that you have really good core control and are keeping that engaged. Now moving on to program specificity. This is a lot of our piece when it comes to programming, but we like to explain a little bit what our intention is. When we program for you, we're going to program exercises that are specific to you, your goals, but also proper movement mechanics. So there are some staples that every program will follow. The staples are core strengthening through rotation and isometric stability, which is basically just holding, thoracic stability through shoulder retraction and scapular depression, pulling the shoulders back, keeping the shoulders low, pelvic stability through hip extension and core control. It's kind of like I talked about on those glute movements there, teaching you how to keep your core engaged and properly extend the hips using the right muscle tissue. And then there's some specifics based on your goals. So traditionally, when it comes to weight loss, we're going to try to have a little bit more full body movement when possible, schedule permitting, and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to work in a little bit more cardiovascular endurance, whether that be into your workouts or your homework. Moving on to muscle gain, a little bit more specific when it comes to isolating muscle groups when possible. Again, this is all schedule permitting, but traditionally, when it comes to weight loss, we're going to have more full body days, full body movements. When it comes to muscle gain as a goal, we're going to try to isolate different muscle groups. One day, maybe you're hitting back, chest, lower body, upper body, that kind of thing. And then lastly, recovery. Recovery is a very important and often overlooked part of any fitness regime. Your body not only needs to rest and recover to be able to perform well for your next workout, but it also needs time to build back stronger. Basically, when we're resistance training, we're creating small little micro tears in the muscle tissue, and then when we give that adequate nutrition rest, the body can actually rebuild, repair stronger, and build muscle. On our end, that means building a program that takes resting certain body parts and your individual schedule into consideration. And on your end, that means eating enough protein, getting enough sleep, maybe rolling and stretching after workouts as well, and following the workout schedule built out for you. We're going to keep in mind your schedule and availability, and we're going to schedule things out in a way that makes sense, rest and recovery wise. So making sure you follow the actual program days by day and not just switching it up to do what you want to do. And that's basically all of our principles. So thank you very much for watching with me, and I hope you took a lot out of this and makes our journey a little bit more clear.